Hi everybody, it's Mike Achera. I'm live from the global headquarters of luxblocks.com in historic downtown Galesburg, Illinois. Galesburg's historic, it's in Illinois, and it's historic because it's the home of Abraham Lincoln's last debate, last existing site of a Lincoln-Douglas debate. So it's a Lincoln town in Illinois, and it's also the home of Carl Sandburg, the poet. It's the home of Ronald Reagan, he lived here. It's the home of Ferris, the guy who invented the Ferris wheel. So Galesburg has a long history of artists, intellectuals, poets, troublemakers, engineers, and now it's the home of Lux Blocks. It's also home of the big railroad, and it's a great historic town. Last week we talked about chalk, and this week we're talking about, or last week we talked about charcoal. We talked about burnt wood. And this week, which is wonderful, and this week we're going to be talking about chalk. Now chalk is calcium carbonate. Chalk is made from things like crushed shells, beautiful shells, seashells, pearls, all different kinds of shells. It's crushed into a calcite that we call chalk, and that chalk is used in anything from antacids. We eat the stuff to this mineral goes into things like eggs and our bones, and it's a wonderful thing. There's another kind of chalk that's readily available around houses. If you find a piece of drywall, this is not calcium carbonate. This is calcium sulfate dihydrate. It's called gypsum. There's a common chalk in America. It's called gypsum, and it also acts like chalk. Okay, and it's just fantastic. So I took this piece of wood out because I wanted to encourage you to think about the things you draw on. And if you have pieces of wood around the house, I know it's a time of COVID, so we're not all going to stores all the time, wonderful stores like Michael's or Dick Blick's. So if you can't get yourself to an art store and buy nice art materials, you really don't have to, because you can draw on things like wood. But what's probably more available in the wood is this. You know, your little Amazon box comes in the mail, and you just take a pair of scissors and you cut it up, and you take your chalk. And today we're talking about chalk because last week we did charcoal and was drawing with darkness and smoke. This week I want to talk about the mystery and gorgeousness of drawing with light. Now, we have to understand something about who we are, what we are, okay? Our eyes have inside of them these rods and cones. And these little rods and cones are basically evolutionary modifications of hair follicles. They're very sensitive little tiny hairs that detect light, dark, the colors, right? But it's a very textured surface inside of your eye, okay? So if we don't draw with lines, what then do we draw with? Well, lines are kind of made up in an easy way to put circles around things, right? But in nature, the boundaries of things, the borders of things, is a made-up thing. Like, what's really the border of this clock? It's a cylinder. It's really not a circle, right? So what's the border of it? We could try to make lines that show the border of it. Or a hand. What's the border of my hand, right? So artists like to force themselves to not think in terms of lines, but to think in terms of light, because light is really what the eye absolutely loves. The mind loves lines because the mind always wants to have kind of a simple, explanation and mathematical understanding of something, but when all it's given is this light, the mind will race around, and interesting things start to happen. Now I'm going to use this kind of paper. I'm purposely going to use a textured paper because I want my chalk to drag and not make just a solid mark. I want it to make a hazy kind of fog, like a white smoke instead of a black smoke. Okay, and I can't emphasize enough the amazing thing this exercise will do to your mind. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to draw. I'm going to start drawing here. Now, when I draw with light, when I draw with chalk, I don't have the nice black dark line at my disposal. So I have to force myself to see and think really hard about where the light's going to fall and hit this person on their head, for instance. I'm doing a person right now, right? So the light, of course, is going to hit the hair, but I'm going to avoid the hair right now. It's going to hit the forehead. I'll organize the face like I did in earlier lessons. I'll organize the face. So I'll put my little lines of symmetry, but not too dark, not too light. And then I'll put where my eyes are going to go really super lightly because, you know, a few people came back to me and said, I drew my kids for the first time and they look kind of freakish. And, you know, there's no way you're going to draw your kids for the first time and they're not going to look like freaks because drawing is not easy, especially drawing someone you love because the human body is a beautiful thing made by angels. And so our first attempts at drawing them is not going to be so good. But what I'm encouraging is not drawing from life here. What I'm encouraging to do in these exercises is to draw with your mind and your imagination, but this is a stimulant to your imagination because this ghost image, right, without the benefit of lines, is going to just allow you to let something emerge, okay? So I have the forehead, the brow. A lot of light's going to go on the shining brow up here because light's coming from on top. Okay, there's a little canopy where the skull goes. The nose, the crown of the nose here is going to get a lot of light. The zygomatic arch is going to capture some light too. So the zygomatic arch will capture light. The eyelid may capture light here. So I'll put some light in here. And then maybe the mustache will capture light. I'll give the guy a mustache. Maybe I'll give him a beard. Who knows? Let's see. The bottom of the beard will capture light because the light's coming from on top. Maybe the hair is going to come down like this. Well, this doesn't look familiar, isn't it? And now, you see, because it's chalk, you can treat it, and this is what's called a painterly exercise. Why is it called a painterly exercise? Because I'm treating the chalk like it's paint. And I could use my fingers, because they're nice and oily and moist, I can use them as brushes. And from this texture, I can, remember working from a middle tone, this is called the middle tone. I'll explain what that means right now. So here is a high tone, right? And here is, with the charcoal, let's see if I can do it. This piece of charcoal. That's a dark, dark tone. Get a better piece of charcoal here. And then in here would be like a middle, right? And you go from the darkest to the lightest light. That's normally how it would work. The tone of a picture would be from the lightest light to the darkest dark. But we're avoiding this part right here and just forcing ourselves to work with the middle tone up to the high tone, okay? Because a painter and an artist always pushes themselves to see the values of a picture. And since we have a tendency to have a weakness towards going to the line in the dark all the time, working at white paper with dark lines, it's good to go the other way around because life is not about, listen, life is not about looking at white things with lines on them. That's not really our reality, is it? We live in a darkness, and then the morning comes and the light shines on these dark things, and then the glory of light hits the object. So as I draw this thing, I can come in and I can start smushing this around to get a higher tone from my midtone. I can start making it into what I would call a skin. A skin. I'm putting a skin on it because I'm getting rid of the little waffle patterns in the paper, and I'm starting to blend. So I'm treating this chalk like it's actually like oil paint, because that's what I am. I'm an oil painter. If I didn't mention, I'm Mike from Lux Blocks. My background is a mural painter and a portrait artist, and I became a toy inventor with my wife. But since the COVID is happening, we thought about what can we do for the kids sitting at home and the parents sitting at home, because this is really adult lessons too. And I said, well, let's just do some drawing lessons, because this is what we used to have at art school, where we now have our world headquarters for Lux Blocks. It used to be an art academy. Okay, so here. So you can see what's happening here. Now, if I was to go back in with the charcoal, you can see what happened. It's not about you have to just have chalk. The idea is the different ways to be creative, okay? The chalk stimulates a form. I can go in now with the charcoal, right? And I can still, where's the nose going to go? Where's the mustache going to go? The bottom lip, the top of the beard, the bottom of the beard. Right, the eyes. So a painter, an artist, a doodler, you have the freedom, but you could play around with your freedom. Great art, like and I'm talking about poetry and song and everything else, comes from limits, imposing limits on yourself. The greatest poems ever written were sonnets, and there were big rules put on what constitutes a sonnet. You had to follow the rules, and haiku has its own set of rules. So great artists really are attracted to an art form that has imposed limits on it, because when you have too much freedom, okay, sometimes that can be a very stifling thing. It's nice to have, like there's conventions to the human face. It's a fun thing because everyone knows the face. So when we draw the face, we have fun with it because people understand faces. So it's a common thing to go to. Okay, so I'm going to stay with the chalk. There's different kinds of chalk. Now you can go to places like I said, Dick Blick, and there's all kinds of chalk. There's school chalk, which is just calcium carbonate, and it's fun, and it's hard, and it's very clean, and it's very safe, okay? It's dustless chalk, and it's wonderful to work with. You can also get what they call white charcoal, which I really don't think is charcoal. It's a kind of chalk, too, okay? And it's hard, makes a nice, beautiful, dark, white line. You can also get, this is also called white charcoal, but it's softer, and it makes a beautiful, thick, you can see how thick that is on the paper, okay? And what I didn't explain last week was when you use charcoal and chalk, people were asking, well, how do I preserve it? Because it's so dusty now. My kids made all this dusty art, and it's all smushy. If I draw with the charcoal, it's going to get all smushy. What do? Just get a can of cheaper the better, hairspray. Hairspray it's a fixative, and you spray with the hairspray and it'll be fine. So again, I'm gonna draw a baby this time. I'm gonna draw what we call these cherubs. They're like the super children of art. Okay, I'm gonna draw a chubby little cherub. Okay, the chubby little cherub belly, and the hips, and the chunky little cherub legs, and the cherub knees, and the cherub calf. Cherubim. They're little make-believe little biblical kind of creatures that adorn religious art of the Renaissance and Baroque and Neoclassical era, and they're like walking, flying children with little wings sometimes. Okay, but it's the proportions of pretty much a baby. So how many heads tall it's going to be? It's going to be 1 head, 2 head, 3 head, maybe 3.5 heads tall. So it's got baby proportions. We talked about proportions. I'll make this a funny cherub with his arms kind of doing this. Little cherub. Chunky little cherub arms with a funny cherub hairdo. Now I'm going to have the light raking across the cherub's body. So here's the tummy. And the chest. Tummy, little form like that. And the thorax is here. The abdomen is here. Thorax is tiny on a cherub. The arms. See, I'm not doing all the arms. I'm doing where the light's going to hit. The light's not going to hit this side right here. It's going to hit that side. The light's coming from the top down, right? And across the body. It's raking. We call that raking. When light rakes across something. So it's raking across. It's hitting hard here, then it's bouncing off, and it's not hitting on this side. Only the ambient light of the room is hitting on this side, right? Same with this thigh right here. And the kneecap. And the calf. Little light over here. Okay, it's going to really hit the bottom of the feet. It's going to hardly hit over here at all. It's going to hit the hair a lot. And then for the brow, the nose, like really delicate little dainty lines here, right? And then the eyes are going to go in here somewhere. Cheeks, cute little cherub cheeks, right? Cherubs have big eyes. So when I do this, I squint too. I'm squinting. I squint because I want to see something. I don't want to be too distracted by the little textures of the paper. I squint so I can see the form emerge in front of me. Okay? Remember, it's darker over here because there's no light coming over here. It's darker over here because there's no light. There's less light. Okay? So this half of the leg is darker than this half of the leg, right? This half of the leg is darker than this half of the leg. This leg is kind of dark. Let's put a little light in the back of the calf there, because maybe the light's coming from behind the leg and hitting the back of the leg here and here maybe. But this leg's in darkness. Now, we don't have to make the cherub naked. We'll give him little cherub pampers. Don't want to draw any naked cherubs for little kids at home. Okay? And then, again, I'm using my finger as a paintbrush. Okay, or what we call an artist stump. When you're drawing, it's called a stump. And you'll have it'll be a roll of paper. I'm not using one though. I like using my fingers because unlike a paper stump, which is like a little tool you use, this actually has oil in your hand, so I'm literally kind of like oil painting technically. And that's my favorite way to draw, is actually to always cheat and bring back painting, because painting is the most fun way to doodle and draw if you can afford it. So this is the cheapest man's oil paint there is. Your own finger and a dusty medium like charcoal or chalk. Okay. Now, if I was to come in now with my beautiful willow, the willow is just a beautiful line. If I came in with the willow now and found out, oh, I'll put a little cherub mouth there, a little cherub, cute little cherub nose and cherub eyes. Grumpy little cherubs, they're the best. Big cherub, it's almost like a hobbit. Okay, probably a cherub's eyes would be down here. Probably doing this all wrong. I probably put a cherub's eyes down here, little baby eyes down here. Yeah. Yep, oh, that was more of a hobbit, what I was drawing. So a cherub, like a little baby. See, now I think the lines almost take away from the painterly aspects I was working on. But I want you to see that you can come in now with your design and you can like say, okay, I'm going to finish this, I'm going to work it out, because maybe you're going to transfer this over to another drawing. It's good to have, artists always work in stages. They draw not for the final presentation, but for the preparation. Artists are always, most of their work goes in the preparing of the artwork. Once they get to the ceiling of the church or the walls of the Capitol building or the beautiful, expensive canvas for the portrait they're going to do, whatever it is, where all the money is going to take place, they want to have made all their mistakes in the cheap drawing. This is where you make your mistakes. Actually, this is where all the fun is, really. And let's give this guy a little sash here, a little cherub sash. Oh, yeah, he's a little cherub toga. Who knows? And then I'm going to give him a little cherub bonsai bandana, because that's so weird. I love it. Okay, little Karate Kid cherub, right? Whatever this is. Okay, so silly. So that's my reason why I do this is because the reason why I draw cherubs is because they're a fun little universal guy to experiment with the body and things you can do with the body. That's why I always draw with cherubs. Well, I don't always draw with cherubs, but that's why I like to draw with cherubs. Get some more paper now. So, like I said, there's all different kinds of chalk to draw with, and there's all different kinds of things you can do with chalk. I'm going to draw a larger face right now, like the one I did here. This one, okay, the way I did this was, I used a chalk like this, and what I did was I went in and I ghost in the art, okay? You ghost it in. Now, Mike, what's ghosting? It's just what it sounds like. You use this, and you don't commit to too much at first, okay? You use this to say, oh, maybe there's going to be a nose here, but I don't know yet. And you remember what I do with the charcoal? I twist. I twist because I want that line that has so much hyperactivity and life. This is the fairy dance, right? This is the fairy dance. This is the crazy dance of art where you're just letting the chalk just kind of do frantic things because you want to see lots of options, okay? There's so much, you want to create so much life. But notice I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that because that'll kind of screw up my paper, okay? I'm staining my paper. I don't want to do that. I want to just gently graze the paper. I am using such little amount of pressure because you want to be able to finesse. Art's about whether it's dancers or songsters or poets. It's all about finesse. You want to do more with less. So I come in. Once I get a little more confidence, I say, oh, I just think I captured an eye right there. I think I'm really excited about something going on right here. So I'm coming in here with an eye. I see an eye, a kind of inverted lower eyelid there, I think. Maybe, yeah. No. I'm not sure. No, I think it's an upper lid. And I think that's going to be the lower lid there, yeah. And then there's an eye here. Go right across. This is going to be a 3/4 view, I think. Yeah, that's a nose there. Don't have it figured out yet, though. My lacrimal gland is remember the tear duct. There's a gland that makes the tears above the eye, right? And then the eye drains into the tears drain into the eye. The nose is going to go here. I'm going to put lips here. Again, I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Because I want the lips. I want the lips. Remember the artist Pontormo I was telling you about? He drew with lines that had life in them, and then he finally commit with a kind of designed line that would determine the final contour, which contour in art means the outline of the face. Okay, but see, it's emerging. But again, I really want to see the possibilities. I don't want to commit too soon to a design. I'm shoulder here, right? Then I'm gonna start throwing in light. Oh, I think I see light. I'm squinting my eyes a little bit so I can see the light. I think I see a little light here. I'm gonna go to a calcium carbonate household dustless chalk here now. I'm gonna go here. The brow is here. The forehead is here. Mike, what are you doing? Yeah, well, you know, you can't be afraid to screw something up. You just can't. And that's why I call this art through doodling, because what people do early on when they start art is there's a disease in art. I call it the disease of art. And it's called the disease of preciousness. Kind of like Gollum in Lord of the Rings. Remember Precious, my precious, or Hobbit? The word precious in art doesn't mean what it sounds like. It's the opposite. It's when people make their early art and they commit. Every line they put down on paper is a precious line. They don't want to correct themselves, right? So it's a lack of self-correction is preciousness, and it's the death. It's the death of art, because when a person's overly careful, overly precious, their art looks like typical early art. It looks stiff and lacks confidence. And the way you avoid that is don't like your art too much. Don't be so in love with what you do. Don't be over. It comes from a lack of confidence, because you're not confident enough that you could do better, right? So you got to be willing to make the ugly. And Michelangelo talked all the time about how the most beautiful things kind of are on the borderline of the really ugly. There's a very interesting concept in Italian art where they got really close to the grotesque to find really unbelievable beauty. So it's a kind of weird concept that most people don't think about. Now I'm treating the chalk like it's paint. I'm coming in and I'm kind of covering up some of these lines and kind of giving this person skin, artistic skin. So if I squint my eyes, I should see it better. I'll put too much white on the nose here. I'm going to cover this up. There's going to be a deep shadow under her nose right here, but not here. There'll be light hitting her here. And the bottom of the nose will have shadow, but not the side of the mouth. Upper lip here will have light. She might have a light here where her dimple and the side of her mouth is. She'll have a zygomatic arch. She'll have light. Her jaw will have light here. Put a twinkle in her eye, and a twinkle in her eye. See where the eyes are going to go, right in there. And I might commit to some darkness pretty soon. I'm just forcing myself to be full of light right now. The shoulder, not the neck. The neck's in darkness for the most part. And the shoulder baked on light right here, right? There's a lot of light coming on the shoulder, right? A lot of light on this hair thing. She's got like a scarf in her hair. I think maybe she's a refugee, or I don't think it's hair. I think it's like a scarf or something, some kind of thing on her face or her head. Okay. Finally, when I'm ready, I might come in with a little bit of the other way, the other value, right? I might come in with my willow, and I say, okay, now I'm gonna commit to some of this stuff. And I say, oh, there's an eye here. Yeah, man, there's an eye right there. There's a beautiful eyelid. An eyelid. Now, some people were making the mistake with eyes on their front view eye of doing this. They drew their kid's face. I'm talking about you, Franny. And they did the almond eyeliner on the eye and made the eyes just killer flat, right? Remember, the eye is a sphere, and around the sphere goes a lune, this shape, okay, where the skin goes over the eyeball. Well, how do you do it in the front of the face? Well, in the front of the face, you have to insinuate it too. You have to kind of show how the upper lid goes over the lower lid, but you can't overemphasize it with too much dark makeup, right? The eyes require lots of gentleness, because human beings are very, very, very picky about their darn eyes, man, because all we've been looking at our whole life is pretty much other people's eyes. So the eyes, if they're little dark little almonds like that, yeah, you know, they're not gonna look real, they look kind of freaky. So the eyes require a lot of attention and a lot of gentleness, okay? And remember, that skin is going around a sphere. And it's that loon shape. And if you have not mastered the loon shape, it's one thing you want to master is the loon. It's one of the most important shapes in nature. It's the shape of flower petals, right? Flower petals, 3 dimensions, right? So loons are really super duper important, and they affect the way the eyelid goes. So if I do the loon on this eye right here, going back to this one. A little eyelash there for fun. Put the eye here. She's looking off. Maybe she's on a boat. Maybe she's coming to Ellis Island. She's one of my Italian ancestors coming to Ellis Island for the first time. See, the thing about art is when you're drawing from the imagination like this, you could just say even the subject might change. It went from, you know, maybe a Greek goddess to an angel to an immigrant to a hero from the civil rights movement. Who the heck knows? Your imagination, that's what you should give freedom to, is your imagination, right? Restrict yourself on the game you play, but allow your imagination to run wild, right? So here's a nostril. There's a 3/4 view nose. So the ball of the nose is here. The wing of the nose is here. The bridge of the nose is here. And I'm going to overdraw a little bit so you can see it here. Nostrils underneath. And then here is a teardrop shape of the dimple under the lip there, over the lip. And then here are the lips here. Give her nice lady lips. This would be a lady. There's a little curly Q at the end of a lip. Okay, and then here is the bottom lip. She's got nice full lips. There's a little swelling here on the side of a 3/4 view. There's a little swelling. Don't let the lips go to the side of the mouth too much. There's a little swelling here. The lower chin, there's a little bit of a cap of fat underneath right here. Okay, and then the jaw would be here. The ear would be over here. 3/4 view ear would be somewhere over here. And then the zygote, like I showed you, there's the brow into the zygomatic, no, sorry, the brow into the tear, the lacrimal gland, the tear gland goes here, the swelling right here, right? And then the zygomatic arch goes here. Comes in with a cheek line there like that. The ear would actually go there like that, somewhere like that. Wipe that off, we'll do it again. Now I'm looking at it and I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna fix it again. I'm gonna darken the line here. See, I keep correcting myself. I'm on autocorrect. When I'm drawing like this from my imagination, I'm not copying something. And since I'm not copying something, it's my private Idaho, man. I'm doing what I want to do. And if I think it's wrong, I'll fix it, right? And it might end up being a drawing I think is ugly, I'm gonna throw away anyways. But I'm trying to learn as I go and that's why I do this again. The freedom to like experiment. I know a girl in town whose hair is dark now. Her name was Kateri Remis, and she had golden filaments of hair when she was younger. And the hair would literally do this. It was like filaments of pure light, right? I never forgot that because on medium tone paper like this, if you just do that, you can kind of capture that filamenty of hair, right? Which is really nice. Okay, again, I'm gonna go with the oil paint now with my finger, make my little fake oil paint here, which isn't really that fake because there is oil in my hand. I'm gonna blend. So this is called the tone. This is the tone, right? Where we're going from, the values of grays. And it's a whole animal of art. It's a whole big part of art that could take years to like master. But you can play with it now. There's nothing keeping you back from playing with this now. It doesn't matter that you're an amateur. We're all if you're not getting paid, we're all amateurs, right? Even professionals, when they're not getting paid, are amateurs because we're not getting paid. So don't let that stop you, thinking that, well, because I stink so bad, I shouldn't do it. All artists at one point really stank badly. The thing that made them into artists was they just kept doing it. Right? They're through a compulsion, an obsession, a love, whatever it is. Most people don't become an artist because they really just don't want to. It's not because they can't. It's because the desire has to be huge to be good at anything. You know, people go watch sports games and they might dream of being a baseball player, but if they really want to play baseball, I mean, that's one of the hardest things to do to be a professional athlete. But my brother went to the Little League World Series, and almost every single waking moment of his days he spent throwing balls against walls, watching baseball when it was raining out, collecting baseball cards, and he was a great baseball player. But that was his love, you know. So if you love to doodle, then doodle. Okay. Again, so I come in here. So you see what I'm doing? I'm trying to build up a picture. Okay. And this is something I might keep working on, because it's now a design of a person that I find kind of interesting. The last thing I'll do today is kind of review a little bit what I just went over. But please, in the comments sections, give me your comments. Well, Akashi said chalk is so interesting, yeah. And Cheryl thinks it's cool. Thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate that. Okay, chalk is cool, and chalk is almost as cool as charcoal, right? Charcoal is the coolest, but chalk is so important. And if you don't have chalk, get a piece of gypsum from your garage. You have a piece of gypsum laying around, like, you know, it works. Gypsum from drywall, if you're in Maine, you might call it dry rock, sheet rock. It actually is a decent chalk. You can draw with it. Actually, it's like charcoal from a fire pit. It makes beautiful, it's a very soft medium though. But it also is really wonderful. Again, and it's just like I did last week with the chalk, with the charcoal, you could ghost in. If you want to go totally creative, you can ghost in a beautiful form and just, it's like therapy. Let yourself just scratch in the light, and you might end up seeing something that is like, oh, I think that's interesting. But you don't have to, you know, and I'm not really an abstract kind of guy, but you're allowed to make, ooh, I see something really cool just happened just now. You know, I just saw this. It's like a Rorschach, you know, like a Rorschach test. Like, what kind of demented thing is my mind going to see? Some of you out there might see a pretty little bird, but I'm seeing something else. I'm seeing like some soldier, or some I don't know what the heck it is. Yeah, so I ended up seeing this guy here like this. I'm going to go with my fun lines now. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, this to me is more fun. Drawing with the dark lines, I love it. But drawing with the light forces me to think like a painter. Okay, and that was the point of today's lesson, was to talk about why we need to discipline ourselves to, oh, I know what this is. This is a picture of Abraham Lincoln. This big widow's peak here. This crazy hair. And Lincoln is thinking of his crazy eyebrows. And Lincoln's in deep thought, thinking about his beard. And he's thinking about writing the Gettysburg Address. And he's sad because it's written about a horrible battle where so many people died. This big Lincoln nose. You know, Lincoln had a giant nose. Lincoln had a massive nose. And he had a really weird face. So this turned into, I don't know what this was going to be. You saw, I was being Joe Abstract here. And now I'm working on a Lincoln picture. It's Widow Peak. The hair would come down like that, Widow's Peak. And so that's what this is turning into, is a picture of Lincoln. Okay? So I'm trying to give you a little view of the artistic process from someone who's actually been paid to be a painter. And it's a fun thing. And I've been drawing since I was probably 3 or 4 years old, because I love it. And we are all different, but my process is one of giving myself a lot of freedom to play and doodle. And then things will come about through the design of just moving this hand around. It's really important to let your hand be a part of the process, okay? It's not just about your ideas. Your hand will help you. It's like connect with your body, and then you have more art superpower. Because together, all the parts of your body, your hand, your arm, and your mind, your eyes, together, and your love, it all comes together to make beauty. This is Mike from Lux Blocks. Come by next week at Thursday at 3 o'clock, and we'll be talking more about art and help your parents out around the house. Chores are a great sign of love, and I love doing this for you guys, and I'll see you next time. Take care.